After much waiting, we eventually learn the history, or at least a portion of it, of how Demerzel ended up employed by the Empire and the beginnings of the Cleonic dynasty. As if that weren't enough, in a terrible and aptly epic episode of Foundation, the Empire retaliates. Though the episode seems to utterly disregard the novels, it nonetheless has all the elements of a sci-fi TV show that one could hope for. We open with a long flashback that explains how, 610 years ago, a small impressionable Cleon one discovered the hidden chamber from last week, a place that had been sealed off and unsealed for millennia. Thanks to some Westworld-esque set design, Demerzel is imprisoned inside the chamber and unable to move. She entices him with stories about the robot wars, legendary home planet Earth, and antiquated emperors. Given that Demerzel discloses that she is 18,000 years old, we only discover a minuscule portion of her past, and we hardly know what her true issue is. The robot narrates how, following the army she commanded's defeat in a major battle, she was imprisoned by an ancient emperor. Before he passed away and left her in prison for 5 millennia, the emperor enjoyed studying her and torturing her for years on end. Demerzel claims that the emperor researched her in part because she might hold the key to producing more of her type. After performing her first act of manipulation on the Cleons, Demerzel spends the next few decades entertaining the young emperor with stories. She began to tell him increasingly graphic stories, luring him in till dawn became day and day became dusk. Upon his return, Cleon had called off his engagement since he had only ever truly loved Demerzel, his friend/secret robot mother figure, who had comforted him following the death of his real mother. Yes, that is extremely strange, but it makes perfect sense for an eccentric galactic emperor. It turns out that Dusk searched for a means to release Demerzel from her confinement for years. To that end, she discovered some old earthly relics, the solar system model box we last saw in her chambers. However, Demerzel's true freedom lasted for a very short while until Cleon placed her in yet another jail. He gives the robot an implant that keeps her from ever hurting the Emperor. She is once more a captive and the Emperor's slave, but this time, he confesses his love to her. Cleon 1 creates the genetic dynasty with the help of an unbreakable force that is conditioned to be obedient to him. He intends to covertly indulge the robot, after which he will have his clones, the strange offspring of their sinister union, continue his genetic code indefinitely. As Cleon 1's genuine heir and lifelong prisoner, Demerzel is upholding the dynasty and legitimately leading the Empire in his honor. She has been raising the Cleons to rule the Empire through them for the entire time, all the while under the influence of the spirit of Cleon 1. For now, Dusk calls Cleon Eye's bluff. The dynasty ends with Sirith, but it appears that the Emperor's ghost has other ideas and traps Rue and Dusk. Foundation is essentially a tale about spirits and how they continue to have an impact on people. Through Cleon 1's will, Demerzel influences every occurrence in the history of the Galactic Empire. Nevertheless, this is not all that different from the Foundation. Del Rios is shown to be mindlessly obeying the spirit of Hari Seldon as he tells the imprisoned Hober Mallow, but he's not the only one either. Rose also acknowledges his own responsibility for feeding the phantom of an empire that is about to fall apart, because they are currently more powerful than the opposition. This week, the Empire retaliates after Hober Mallow exposed the weakness of the system to the world last week, just before Rios caught him. When Date first gets to Terminus, he finds that the Church of Scientism is really an armory that the Foundation provides to its friends in the form of personal shields. Day stabs the Foundation's director in a fit of wrath and gives the order to murder everyone else but capture the scientists alive. He too goes to Seldon's vault, a desperate man looking for approval. This is one example of why the concept of clone emperors is intriguing, as I have already stated. For all of his existence, Cleon 17 believed he was unique, that he could make a difference, and that he would be the one to disprove Seldon. He hardly recognizes the Emperor, though, when he sees the ghost of Seldon. His purpose in coming is to speak with Demerzel, who is the real boss. She engages Seldon, who appears to be fully aware of her nature and position, and she seems to concur with the deceased mathematician about the long-term strategy of the Foundation to save mankind and the Empire. Cleon, in the meantime, deems himself an outlier and the person to put an end to the genetic dynasty in order to oppose Seldon. Cleon is still fixated on Seldon and is terrified of the attempt at a naked assassination. However, the psychohistorian doesn't give a damn, viewing Day as a conceited fool rather than an anomaly. All he wants is for Demerzel to know that she is aware of his goal. He even offers her the Prime Radiant, which is psychohistory in its entirety. He'll teach her how to read it and make sure the robot that was previously unable to harm humans is able to safeguard humanity's future. Cleon, however, declines. He will not abandon humanity to AI. Giant baby Cleon threatens to destroy all of Terminus unless Seldon acknowledges that his math is incorrect. He dismisses the Emperor once more and speaks to Demerzel alone, explaining that everything was done to ensure humanity's survival. He informs her that every second the future is invented. Create a better one, Seldon remarks, handing the murder robot the plan. Rios is ordered by Cleon, who is not to be easily defeated, to bring the Invictus cruiser from the previous season down on the planet. This will destroy it and kill all the people within. In his seeming triumph, Demerzel leaves Cleon behind to take care of matters on Trantor, maybe out of terror at the choice or in a rush due to a sense of impending danger. She acknowledges that although she tried to influence him and correct his mistakes by sleeping with him, she was unable to raise him correctly. According to Cleon, he is a whole man, the greatest Cleon, the only one to alter, and a total anomaly. Demerzel, though, shuts it down, branding him a fool for confusing complexity with random motion. There's always the next one, but it's too late to change him now. As a result, we witness the Invictus fall onto the planet below, complete with amazing visual effects that depict the world's and the First Foundation's devastating total destruction. Forget that this isn't in the books. It's terrible and a major setback to Seldon's strategy and the plot. But if we're to believe her position in the books, the sight of the murder robot Demerzel seemingly grieving over so much death and destruction might end up being a godsend. That being said, what precisely is Hober's bite-like wrist mark? What is it, since Rios doesn't appear to know, that he claims the Spacers tagged him and thinks that's how the Empire tracked him?